So the payload, 12.6 tonnes, gives us a zero fuel weight of 55.7. This is the 189 seat configuration, so you can see here who's sat where. And whoever they are, they've not got many bags with them, so we've got cargo in the front hold only 426 kilos. And I've requested 7.7 tonnes of fuel. So let's get the refueling going. So we're entering the route manually, and this is the ISARA 1 Alpha departure then out of Merida from runway 10. And our star, the NAG3 Alpha, and that brings us down here to Upton, where we begin our procedure for the RNAV approach onto runway 05 left. So on the route page, I've entered origin, destination, flight number. So runway 10, ISAR 1 Alpha, and then for the arrival, RNAV 5 left, NAG 3 Alpha. So at the moment, our route looks like that. From ISARO, we've got a straight line, 444 nautical miles down to Anaga. I'm just going to add 3 waypoints, as you can see. That's just so that we don't have a massive gap between the last waypoint of the SID and the first waypoint on the star. And let's clear that discontinuity, so line select that, go back, enter it over the boxes there, and then just do a final check, just to make sure that you've got no other discontinuities going on. Total flight distance does agree with what I'm expecting. This one just there, look. Just want to show you the perf init page, and you see that I've completed everything on there to the values that we were expecting, but let's just have a quick look at the impact of these winds. So they will more or less be on the nose, so it'll be a headwind. How does 40 knots impact us over a flight time that's around about 1.5 hours? So it's about 5 minutes, isn't it? Now, as you know, I like to do some things manually, particularly for short flights. Obviously, if I'm doing a long flight, I'll use SimBrief, but we're just using the same processes here that SimBrief would use, probably just a little bit less refined, but the main point is that we are now understanding how SimBrief works. More importantly, we've shown you the impact of the headwinds. Also, if you sort of had to guess, you know, what does 40 knots actually mean on the nose over that sort of flight time? Well, if we did a quick sort of maths, over 1 hour, you've lost 40 nautical miles. Over the next half an hour, you've lost 20 nautical miles. So it's fairly negligible, that's what I'm saying. So whilst the focus of this video is to show you the star and approach into Mexico, we'll just show you the takeoff. So do leave yourselves time to brief and prepare for your descent. So we're sat here now in the cruise. Let's just have a look at something that I want you to consider first. So towards top of descent, 215 nautical miles, and we've got an overall track distance of 354. So let's just do one minus the other, and that means that we're going to be starting descent 130 nautical miles out. Now, let's refer to something that I probably mention on every single video I do, and that's the 3-to-1 rule, which states that for every 1,000 feet of altitude you need to descend, you need 3 nautical miles. So we're at flight level 380, multiply 38 by 3, and we'll just round that up to 120 nautical miles. Now the other thing here though, we're going to be landing in Mexico, which has a field elevation of over 7,000 feet. So already we're cruising at flight level 310. So we should need, by the 3 to 1 rule, less than 100 miles. So why does it want us to go down so early? Let's have a look at the chart. And the first constraint is 300 in AGA, and then we're going to be sat there for 32 nautical miles until we get there. So really the answer is because the star has constraints on it that we must meet quite early on in the descent. So have a look as well. Along here we've got 2 points, 180 and 180. We can use that to slow down, but we're going to use VNAV to see how that goes, and we'll only intervene if we feel that VNAV is losing it a bit. So let's set up then. So we've got 7,700 set as minimums. I've pre-selected the QNH 30.38, but do note that we are still in standard. Auto brakes will be 2, flap 40 137, and we'll just select the Mexico VRR as well, which is 115.9, and just have that on both sides. And course 55 also set. As I say, that's there just as a backup, just in case we need to use it. And just for a bit more situational awareness, putting a fix around the airfield 7, 11 and 25 nautical mile range rings. So I was talking to someone last night, I think they use 5, 10, 15, so you do whatever you're happier with. So we've reached top of descent now, and you can see, let's just remind ourselves of the mode. So we get retard, which means, as you can see, it's reducing the power. So we've now got the vertical deviation display that's showing and is calculating as we speak. And just heard the click as the throttles have settled in the idle position. So now it goes arm, and that's a point where if you actually wanted to, you could move the throttles and you can move them forward again if you wanted to. If we was to do that in this example, we'd just shallow out the rate of descent. So we've now levelled off at flight level 300, and the point at which it's going to resume descent is just here, where it says stop of descent, flight level 300. 270 is set, and once we get to the next top of descent points, aircraft's going to resume that descent down to 270. So it's showing us now a bit more of its hand, isn't it? So you can see that we've just overflown this part. VNAV scale is calculating, and it's just lowering the nose. Down we go again. It's remaining in FMC speed this time, so what's that telling us? Well, that's actually telling us that there's some power being applied in order to maintain. So here we are again, levelling off, flight level 270. Notice now we've gone into VNAV Alt, so I need to intervene here. Okay, so VNAV Alt is just telling you, well, look, Mr. Pilot, was in following the VNAV profile. I was telling you that by the enunciation of VNAV path up here, and now I've gone a bit high of the profile. So what I'm telling you now is that the pitch is appropriate for the speed, but temporarily VNAV profile's down the toilet. So what do we think about intervening at the moment? We know we're going to level off at 180. It's really wanting us to decelerate here, so we've got a choice. We can either pull the speed brake now, or wait and see. And I'm going to wait, and rather than call it wait and see, I'm going to wait and evaluate. If you just keep your eyes on this bit, what happens here? So you can see that we're going to be held at 180 until we get to this point here. That's why I haven't intervened. I've blown the requirement to meet 230 knots at that waypoint that we've just overflown. But in terms of the overall management of the VNAV profile, I'm still happy. And what you'll see as we start to come down to 180 is this reduces. I'm just going to set the altimeter because the difference there is quite significant. You can see we've jumped up there. But yeah, I'm happy now that this is going to pull back. We've got another clue down here, look, at the set page itself. You can see the vertical speed that we need in order to meet that is only a few hundred feet per minute. And that's now recovering. But like I say, what we should have done is pulled the speed brake, because that would have been the only way to meet 230 knots at that waypoint. But the overall recipe, you can see this is coming back now, so the overall situation is good. Something that I don't think I showed you when we was doing the brief was the forecast page, so you can see the winds are light. That's why I didn't enter any winds in here, but I've of course entered the ISA deviation and the QNH. Now, just a few words on the ISA deviation. So we know that at sea level, standard temperature is 15 degrees, and we enter any deviation from that there. You take 2 degrees off for every 1,000 feet you climb. So in the case of Mexico, the ISA temp is around 1, isn't it? It's going to be 1 degree. So you can basically enter the temperature that you see there. It's 8 degrees down there, so I've entered 7. So we're levelling off again at 14,000 feet this time, and you can see it's making a few adjustments to the speed as well. So it's building in that distance into the VNAV profile, so that it's not only managing us descending, it's managing the speed as well. It's a really impressive, that's a work of art, isn't it? You know, that's why I make these videos. Now, what we're going to do now then is I'm going to give you a view of the outside world. So things are probably going to start to happen now fairly quickly, so let's restate how many miles we've got. About 21 at this point. What's the track distance? 20. So to me, maybe a few alarm bells. Look at the VNAV profile. That's okay at the moment. VNAV speed. We don't yet have the message on there, drag required. However, if that don't sort itself out in a minute, I'm going to get the speed brake out. Let's dial in the missed approach altitude. I'm not saying that's realistic to do. That's something I'm doing here just to reduce some workload, because we've still got a few other constraints as we get down here. So we're now going to change the display so that we can see, and see that's my 11 mile range ring 7. So this turn is pretty tight. Boards are coming out now. $15 miles now, so let's do that backwards, shall we? So how many feet have we got there to play with? You know, it's just about right there, isn't it? I'd be looking at, say, 5, because 5 times 3 gives you 15. We ain't got much room to play with. You see the deviation now? It's really starting to run away with us. So if we don't intervene, we'll be going around. So this isn't where you're looking at your VNAV profile and saying, "Oh, it's not doing it right," because sitting in a pilot's office explaining why you've had to do a go around because you weren't on top of your game ain't going to end well. So you do what you need to do. You get your speed brake out. I'm going to go flat 1. It's now managing the speed as well in terms of the approach. So 184. Drag required. How much drag do you want? Panto season is over. So gear down. We've got 10 nautical miles now. We've only got, that's giving us 3,000 feet to descend. We need just that, so we're right on the cusp here. Notice now, it's suddenly happy again. with the VNAV path, so the damage of, as I keep calling it, the deviation, is coming back. Speed's coming back up. Absolutely fine. So speed brakes retracted. But now we need to slow down. So flap 2. And we're making this turn, 7 miles out. So here's another point of reference for us. Flap 5. Have a look here as well. You can look at the scales. This gives you more indication as well. Flap 10. Let's go and set the missed approach altitude, 12,500 feet. Let's start to get a few things configured as well. I'm happy at the moment with the speed, so let's get those on. Let's get that on. Let's use my little script to help me get the rest of it sorted. So we're lining up. Can't yet see the runway. Flap 15. So I've got 3 more flap settings to come out. How are we doing there? 1,800 feet. Flap 25. I did a bit of cooking this week. First time I've made several meals in one day, but it's the same thing. You don't want to be sort of rushing at the last minute when everything's gone so well. So that early intervention there was key. I would almost say, had we not, and if we were still typing ourselves to death on Discord,
it's not working properly. It's a few feet off.
Just fly the plane. Intervene if you have to. Flap 25 and then flap 40. We should be configured now. Can we see the runway? Yes, we can see the lights, can't we? Well, that's good. Flap 40. I'm going to disconnect the throttles so that I can match my hardware to it. So again, this is another thing, that kind of early preparation, that's key. I need at least 55% N1 there, and if you're familiar with the aircraft as well, that will help. What do I need at this flap setting at this weight? If you fly these things every day, like the real pilots do, then that's something that you'll just do instinctively. Okay, disconnect the autopilot, Mr. Approach set. There's the runway. So it's an RNAV approach, so just looking there, we've still got the scales on the PFD, also on the navigation display as well. That, when I disconnected the autopilot as well, I've not yet had to trim it. That is
400.
That's nice. So a bit more power. I'm just feeling like we are a bit high. Continuing
300. 200.
It's 137 as well that we need to aim for. Not 142 as was set there.
100.
Purely visual
50,
now.
40, 30, 20, 10.
And reverse. And stay the reverse. Just keeping an eye there on the reverses, that's it. Nice and stable then, as you saw. Good approach. It should increase your chances of a nice successful landing. Let's get rid of that for the moment. So it's not all about butter, that's been really enjoyable to execute that star, manage it, step in where we had to. Just to summarise then, as we do a good job of parking up, so the trip fuel 4,253 kilos. Taxi fuel, so that's measured from when we switch on the APU up to when we begin the takeoff roll, so 72 kilos. Doesn't include the bit to taxi back in. Total burn 4,325 kilos, and there's our total average 2,547 kilos per hour. And so I'm just selecting that part of the data, so roughly from where we reach top of climb to top of descent. So graphing the wind data, this is the direction of it, around about 270 down to 240, and then the speed itself 45, reduced actually down to about 38, but as you can see that's more than enough to give the FMC a great idea as to where the predominant winds are coming from. So you don't need to enter every single little twist and turn. Spoke about the 30-30 rule on a previous video, so if it's 30 degrees and or 30 knots, then considering entering it at the next waypoint. I do hope that you've enjoyed this video and it's given you an insight into why some stars are probably look a bit more complex, but as you've seen, if we just sit down, plan it step by step, the execution's nice, hassle-free, and the landing's not too bad either. So do like, subscribe, and I'll see you soon on the next video. Take care now, bye bye.